And then we're going to go to our channel. And we're going to go live.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And
Perfect.
then we're
Oh, look at that.
I'll set you to live chat.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. Is it because there's no one there yet?
I think we have latency, and latency's pretty long. It's probably
Yeah, I
at least
noticed
1 or
that,
2
yeah.
minutes.
I did notice that when I was doing the last
So,
live.
I'm just going to leave it, and then once that comes up.
Okay.
And then
Let's have them be looking at this. I'm going to put...
So, you're kind of upside. Which direction are you? All right.
That's right.
Carry on if you need anything.
I will screech.
I did, of course.
Oh, good morning, Lila. It's good to see you. Haven't had you in class for a while. Good morning, Tina and Wanda and Dragonfly. I'm still kind of getting everything together here. We're going to start with kind of what was on the supply list and some of my favorite things and why I never follow directions. I think that good things can happen sometimes when we're not paralyzed by the written word. So I did one of the baskets that we're going to do today. I did one of them according to the directions. And that's the one we're going to do first. And then I did the second one with changes that I thought would be beneficial. Make sure I have the volume on. I think I do. Looks like I do. All right. So I'm going to just throw out some ideas. Frankly, I think these little boxes are like the best thing next to white bread at the holiday time, because it's first of all, it's a great scrap buster. It really doesn't take much fabric. They go together pretty quickly, and they offer a range of possibilities for different things that you can do with them. One of them is they can be a great little treat that you can do with holiday fabric and put your holiday baking. If you do cookies or stuff like that, you can put that in there. The other thing that I always think is an idea when it comes to these little baskets is, y'all know I'm a bag maker really at heart. And so when I see like sloppy lining, I'm like, ugh. So another thing you can do with these little baskets is, we're not doing it in class today, is you could just quilt the pieces before you start working with them. In other words, stack them as it says to stack them on the foam, and then just quilt, even if it's just channel quilting, because it's going to hold those two layers together and you're going to get sharper corners. So on the video that I did, I tried my way, which I kind of like a little bit better, because I kind of prefer to work with the binding, because I think that it's, with the sizes being the same size and then bind it afterwards. And that's the second box. That's the way I'll do it. But the other thing you can do here is you don't have to use the stabilizer that they tell you to use, and just that. So I like foam. I think foam gives some really nice shape to boxes, but I also think that different stabilizers, like I use a lot of Decaville Light in my bags to give them a little bit of strength. You could certainly use that on one layer. I would probably do it on the outside layer and still use your foam, and you'd still get a more rigid side. And the reason for that being is really you can make this any size you want it to be. Today is just a roadmap. And that roadmap can go wherever you want that roadmap to go. It can be as big, it can be as small. It can be essentially whatever you want. So let's just kind of look at this in the way it says, is my roadmap if I have better fabric, different fabric, or all of a sudden now I'm like, yes, everybody I know is going to get a loaf of bread in a little box like this. Then all you would have to do really is I would say if you're going to put a loaf of bread in it, you need to make the sides a little taller. And then this part's going to need to be longer. How do you do it? I always start with butcher paper. And then I tape the seams together and see if it's going to work. And if it works, then it becomes a pattern piece. If it doesn't work, I'm not out any fabric or anything. It's just butcher paper. All right. So I'm going to go over some of the things that I put on your supply list. I did do this in my pre-class video. I did do it using the digital dual feed walking foot. And normally that's my favorite walking foot on the planet. But these boxes were so small that that chunky monkey walking foot was just always in my way. And truly, once you get stitching, the foam is not that thick. It was easy to sew with my J-foot. So today in our sew along, I'm just going to use my J-foot. And then I also want to make note here, if you can see the difference here, there's two different brands of foam here. One of them is just Pellon 77. I think it's just 77 because 77F is fusible. And you can see it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. The other one is one of my new favorites for smaller projects, and I still want foam. This is the Kimberbell foam. And you can see that this one's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So you can still get some of the rigidity to a project that you would get out of foam, and yet not have it, be too bulky for a smaller one. And you'll notice that the bigger box has, the second one has got the wimpier, and the first one's got the full foam. Also, normally I do not buy foam that has fusible on it because then I'm kind of committed to a project that needs fusible foam. I use stuff like Misty Fuse or Hot Fix, and if I need it to be fusible, that's what I use on it. And then I can fuse it to whatever I want to fuse. Because that way I can just have regular foam if all I want is regular foam. All right, hello everybody. I'm glad there's pieces, or afternoon. Good morning or afternoon. Hi, Nuala. All right, so I'm going to set these aside for a minute. Mine are cut and prepped. And I'm going to go over the supply list. I used confetti thread. You can use any kind of thread. It doesn't have to be cotton thread, but I do have a kind of a love affair with the Tootie, the variegated cottons. Also, if you're going to use these to go in a microwave, then the cotton thread would probably be your only choice on this one. You have to have something that can go in the microwave. We always have to be careful what we put in the middle, that it's going to be microwavable if we're making a gift that is going to get used that way. I used 2 different colors, and I wound a bobbin partially for each of them. I have Best Press here. I have an iron here. I have a pressing mat. I have a rotary cutter and a ruler. We're going to have to cut some corners out when we start slicing and dicing. So I really like having a smaller square ruler. I think it makes it easier for me to make that notch and not go too far in and cut it farther than I need to. I do have some spray baste here because the first thing they're asking me to do is baste my my top side, or one of my pieces, to the soft and stable, the foam, and it's like clip all the way around, pin to hold in place. I'm like, no, I'm just going to spray it in the tent and I'm going to stick it on my foam. And I use products like that all the time. If you are worried about your needle getting gummed up, I buy a product and I just get it right off of Amazon. I get it in a box. I have it everywhere. It comes in a box of 100 for probably about $10 or $12. And it's an adhesive tape remover pad. It's what they use in hospitals when they go to take that tape off of your bandage so they don't take your skin with it. It works perfect. I keep it next to my sewing machine. If I feel like my my thread is beginning to shred or my needle is starting to pick up fuzz as it comes out of where it's sewing, I just stop. I wipe it off with that adhesive tape remover pad. I wipe the excess off with a tissue and I just keep going. So it's very easy to remove. Erasable markers, threads, snips and scissors, clips and pins. I'm using a size 80 needle. I use a size 80 needle, universal needle, a chrome universal for just about everything. Chalk marker or some other sort of erasable marker. I use friction pens, but we have a lot of other stuff here at the store. And one of them are this new set of erasable pens from Gypsy Quilter, I believe. And it has a little eraser on the other side. So you can actually draw with one side and then you can just erase it when you're done. I think the green, I was testing them. I think the green's going to show up for me really well. Always a stiletto so that we don't put our fingers underneath the needle. I'm going to use some steam-a-seam, a 1/4 inch steam-a-seam, and a clapper. And then Roxanne's glue-based. I know, since I've been here, I've done several videos on doing binding because I love binding. I do binding even on purses and bags that I make that have a drop-in lining. I still do binding because the binding, first of all, the binding in, if you're doing like a bag or that type of a project, makes your seams pop out so you really have a nice square structure or round structure, depending on the size. In this case, it kind of allows you to not have as much slack in your lining piece because there's nothing that has to be worked out and folded over and then tucked down. So that doesn't always work, especially on a bigger basket. It's not always smooth when you're done. So the smoother way would be to have both the lining and the outside be the same size, sew them together, make everything smooth. You could even quilt the layers together. So, and then you have the binding that's going to, snug it up tight. So that's my supply list. And I'm going to go ahead and get going. So I'm going to do the small first, which means that Michelle's going to follow the directions, which happens occasionally, but, and then I have my little spray tent right here. You won't see it too much of it. And I'm just going to spray the back of my fabric. This is the interior fabric here. Or the exterior fabric. Let's see, am I doing the interior or the exterior first? I always get confused with this. I think it's the interior. Yes, it's the 9x10, so it's the smaller piece, and that ends up being your exterior piece. And it says, I'm going to attach that to the soft and stable, which is your foam. So this is the one that I actually used the pink thread on. So it says trim the soft and stable to 9x10 to match the fabric. All right, so I'm going to move this pressing mat out of the way. I have my rotary cutter and ruler here. Yeah, I grabbed the rotary cutter with the bad blade, but that's all right. That means that it's like a core training class where I'm going to get arm work done because we're going to have to press harder, right? So I did back my this piece that I'm working on right now. This is the exterior piece, and I did back this piece with some SF 101 Again, if it was maybe a little bit bigger basket, maybe I would change my mind and not use SF101 and I would use the Decaville Light. All right. All right. To encourage the basket to fold easily, mark and stitch fold lines on the prepared basket body. All right, so I'm going to follow my lines right here. So I have to have 2.5 inches. So it's 9 inches wide. So I want or 9 inches tall, 10 inches wide. So you want the 10-inch side going this way. And then it's 2.5 all the way around. So I'm just going to go to 2.5. It seems like it's a big amount, but once you get it on such a small basket, it is not. Let's see if the blue one works. Yep, works good. And it's always good to make sure it erases. Yep, erases good. I think this is also wet and like wet it and it's gone too. All right, and then I also have to mark 2.5 inch, so that should be like the center. Let's see here, 2.5 on the long side. Yeah, so you should be dividing it in 4 sections. So if you don't have 2.5 in both of these blocks, then you did that line on the wrong side. All right, so that one's ready. And so to mark and stitch with the 10-inch side at the top, mark the horizontal lines we did, mark the vertical lines, stitch along all the marked lines using a stiletto to keep it. When am I adding the backing? Seems like I should already have the backing on it. Oh no, because it falls in. It goes inside. All right, so this is going to be the first thing I'm going to take over to stitch. And I'm going to just look ahead a little bit and see if there's anything else I could be stitching there while I'm at the machine. And it says using a stiletto to keep the fabric from shifting as you sew. It's kind of spray basted, so it's not going anywhere. And then on each side of the 9-inch side, we're going to stitch a rectangle side section because that 1/4 inch away from the stitching. I'm not sure if my pink thread's going to be dark enough to see on camera, so we'll try and make that happen. I think it will be. So what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting a chunk out of this side here on the 9-inch side, and that's going to create our it's going to create our seam to make a boxed corner. Let's see, fold the long bottom edge up. Nope. Okay, that's the only thing I can do right now. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to leave you here for a minute till I get that camera set up. All right, so I just have my J foot on it right now, and I also have a stitch in the ditch foot. That's not the stitch in the ditch foot that goes with the walking foot. Let's see if I can get something I like there and get me out of the way. All right, perfect. I'm not going to show you the screen of the machine. I'm going to be using a straight stitch that is 3 millimeters long. Why 3? Because I'm not sewing a quilt. I don't need a 2.0 or a 2.5 stitch length. I'm sewing over foam, which is thick, and 3 inches will be way more, just fine for what I need. So I'm going to set my, or 3 millimeters, sorry. I'm going to set my stitch length to 3.0. All right. All right, so straight stitch right down the middle, stitch length 3.0. And I'm just going to start on the first edge. Now what I do is I try not to start off the edge because really sewing machines don't like to sew in air. If you feel like you can't just back up a few stitch with a back stitch, then put a leader or something behind there. Or the other thing we could have done in this case is if you wanted to start before the fabric, so that you could just do like a stitch in place, you could have left the foam on there and not trimmed it until after you did this part. Oops. The other thing you can do is if you want, and this is, all about how it's easier for you, is you can go ahead and you can use your guideline marker if you want. All right, so I'm just going to do a stitch in place here. I'm going to try to go kind of slow so that you can follow along. I think anything that I consider a scrap buster, I really sew a lot of those around this time of the year because I don't know. I don't think I'm the only one that has a box of scraps that you just can't throw them away, right? So it's nice to have something that you can do with them. I like to sew fabric going in the same direction, so I'm not going to flip it around. I'm going to sew down this way. And that I learned from a quilty friend. But it also works really well with when you're sewing straps and handles, things like that. You want to sew the fabric going in the same direction on both sides, because then you don't push the fabric one way when you go down one side and the other way when you go down the other side. Usually ends up with twisty straps. Oh, did you come on? Yep, you came unthreaded. So some of you might be asking why I'm not using my pivot features. Well, when I select the pivot feature and I don't want it to backstitch, I just want it to stitch in place, it picks a 2.0 stitch length for me. And then if I decide that I do want to backstitch a little bit, I can't because, I love the pivot, don't get me wrong. Just in a project like this, I don't use it. And then when I get done, since I was supposed to baste all the way around in the beginning, I will baste all the way around then. Why didn't I do it before? Well, plain and simple, had I basted all the way around this to begin with, if I don't have perfectly flat fabric and it's not perfectly shaped to the foam or it's not perfectly stuck to the foam as you stitch, you're going to end up with a bubble. So I would prefer to, go around the outside after the fact. Oops, I think I needed to go that far. I think that center is left open. So let me get my not so favorite tool, which is the picker. Sometimes when I talk and sew, I forget to stop. So what I did is I ran over my center seam here, and that's going to be the bottom part of the box. So I don't want to sew it. I don't want to sew that there. So I'll just pick it out. Everybody, at least in my sewing career, I've owned many pickers. And, sometimes we're still friends today. Not as good of friends as we were when I first started, but we're still friends. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute to acknowledge all the comments. Hello, Trish from Florida. Good. We'll see you on the replay. Hi, Karen. Welcome. Can we rewatch this again? Yes, Soki. It's going to be on our YouTube channel when we're done. I think that if everybody else hears it, then the issue might be on your end. Okay. Yeah, you know what? It's almost like any computer thing. And what everybody will tell you is if it's not working and you're like, it worked fine 5 minutes ago, what is its problem? Just turn it off and restart it. It usually fixes the problem. It's so good to see so many people joining us. So thank you for that. Yeah, the fabric is really cool. It's actually Liberty of London. And I had not actually seen Liberty of London fabric in quite a while. I mean, I don't know that it probably didn't go anywhere. I just probably hadn't seen it. But it has this amazing texture to it. It just, almost when you take it off the bolt to cut it, it's cotton, but it almost has kind of a linen-y feel. So it's really very nice. So I have another my rule, not your rule, my rule. I like to not start in the corners with stuff, so I'm going to start here on the edge. And that way I make my way around the corner. And since I need it to be like within about 1/8 of an inch, I'm just going to select the full left needle position and then move it over to the right. And that's going to give me just a little bit marginally bigger than a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to run that at 4.0 because basically it's basting stitch. And also in a project like this, when you have multiple layers, if you find that at every junction where you actually made a seam in here, then you're getting a pucker. Lengthen your stitch length when you're going around, because what you're doing is you're pushing it all with that length of a short stitch. And again, if it's a basting stitch, it doesn't have to be tiny. It can be big. It's only holding your layers together. That's its only job. And then also you can stop. If your foot comes up, it releases some of the pressure, and sometimes the fabric just falls back into place. Okay, so now on the 9-inch side, you just have this rectangle here. This rectangle is what we're going to cut out, but we need to leave seam allowances. So we're going to make a 1/4 inch, length of stitching all the way around. I'm going to show you my favorite way, because a lot of you don't even know you have this. On your Brother Baby Lock machine, if you are using your J-foot, you have a specialty stitch that is built in that will give you an exact 1/4 inch if you line up the edge of your foot. It's going to be in various places depending on the model number of your machine. But I don't normally use it because, again, it's a 2.0. But here's what it is. At the bottom, if you have left-right transition, left-right shift, or you have the ability to move your needle slightly, 3.0 or 3.5 is actual center. If I want to use the edge of my foot for 1/4 of an inch, I need to move my needle over that way till the left-right shift is 5.5. If you're doing it for quilting, you have a built-in stitch. It's going to start with a stitch in place. It's going to finish with the stitch in place if you use your pivot function. It's going to give you a 2.0 stitch length. I don't really want it that small anyway, so I just did it using my regular first stitch, 1-03, which is a back stitch. The stitch length is, this one I am going to leave at 2.5 because it's going to be, I have to cut along that line. And I move my left-right shift to 5. So this side of my foot is going to rest right on that line that I stitched previously, right here. And I'm going to go slow because I have to pivot when I go around. This is important. I have to keep the size pretty accurate here. You can see right here in this open area of your foot when you get to where you have to pivot. All right, so usually what it is right when I can see the line in this area here is when I turn. And then now my foot is lined up with the other side there. The edge of my foot stays right along the first one that I stitched. Okay. All right. So there's my 1/4 inch, and you can see that. Let me see if I can put this up a little bit. And you can kind of see how nice and square that is. I mean, it is actually a perfect 1/4 inch seam. That's built in using this J-foot. That's a machine, the general sewing foot your machine, came with it if it's a Brother or Baby Lock machine. What's nice is normally I don't have to go look for it because it's already on the machine. And the contact, if you're like me and you don't piece a lot all the time, a 1/4 inch stitch foot is never going to be my first choice because I don't have as much control with that. If you do it all the time, you're probably used to it. You probably have 100% accuracy with that foot. I don't. This foot, I'm using that whole edge. That whole side makes contact with my fabric. It makes contact with one of the longest feed dogs. So for me, it's easy, and I don't have to go look for it because I don't use that foot that often. So I probably don't remember where it is that I left it if it's not in my box. All right, so I'm going to take this over to the table now, and I'm going to give it a cut. I think I also need to trim my my other piece, my lining piece at this point as well. And then I'll show you another kind of fun trick. When we go to sew these two seams together, that's going to, you know, create our little box. It's going to go, you know, then it's these two right here, I think, yeah, that are going to go together to make the little box. Then with the foam in there, sometimes having foam in there makes that 1/4 inch seam a little difficult. So on the seams that I'm going to sew together to make my my box, I'm going to go ahead and zigzag around the edges. Not neatly, just squashing the foam down to make it easier for me to stitch. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back to the table. So I'm going to cut those pieces out on each of the 9.5 inch sides. You can do it with a pair of scissors if that's a close cut for you. I'm going to slip in this little square, and I'm going to try to do a good job without cutting where I don't need to cut. If I am successful, great. If I am not successful, I'll probably just reach for scissors. Either way, it's fine. So you want to cut just on the outside of that line that you just stitched. Yeah, I think this is easier with scissors for me. So I'm going to go just right on the inside of that line. I was afraid to cut through the other one. And then just on the outside of the line you just stitched. So we want to try to leave the stitching line there if we can. All right, do the other side. It's nice if I went the other way, I can see the line. All right, and I think now I need to mark my lining. Nope, not yet. All right, so grab yourself a couple clips, but we're not going to do it quite yet. We're going to clip this right sides together. I'm just going to do a little demo here. And then once we've done that all the way across, then we're going to pull these over here just to make the box. All right, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to zigzag all the way around. I think just squash the foam down, keep it out of the way. And then I will do the rest of the clipping over at the machine. Okay, there it goes. All right, so I'm just going to use a really thin zigzag just to kind of squash my foam down. Just a basic zigzag. My stitch width is 3.5. The length is 1.4. And again, I'm just going to go within that, you know, I just want it to go within that edge. I don't want to get into my seam allowance or... Oh, getting threaded again. I wonder if it's time for a new needle. I'm going to lengthen it a little bit, down to 1/8. There we go. Am I going to do this for the other side for the lining? I am not, because it doesn't have foam on it. This, the only thing is for this, and it's a good habit to get into. It'll make your sewing life on a domestic machine for things with foam much easier, is it squashes the foam a little bit. So it means that your seam allowances can be more accurate with foam. And plus it's easier to sew. Oh, almost. I knew I was going to need to wind a bobbin. I'm just going to try to see if I can play a little bobbin chicken here, because I know there's always a little bit left on there, right? Okay, I made it. All right. It was too much thread to throw away, so I knew I'd have to wind a bobbin. All right, let's see. Did I make it? Yeah. Now that's a great game of bobbin chicken. There's like 6 inches of thread left, but we made it. All right, so I did actually wind the other color this morning, and I forgot to look at this color, so I'm only going to wind about a half a bobbin. Let's see what we got. We're going to fold it together taco style. And clip the top and the side. So right now I'm only going to be stitching the sides together with 1/2 inch seams. Wow, okay, that's nice. It gives me plenty of space. So I'm going to be stitching right here with 1/2 inch seams. And to make a 1/2 inch seam with using the edge of my foot, I'm going to use a far right needle position and put the edge of my foot up against, and that's going to be a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Oh, it became undone again. What is with this? I think it's the cotton thread. Oh no, it's not. It's me, you guys. I was winding the bobbin. It's me. Me, I'm the problem. It's me. I do come unthreaded more often, it seems like, when I have cotton thread. Nope. Okay. right? What is with this morning? Sorry. Okay, I'm starting interior, and we'll just back up this way. No, it still gets, it's just, what is with it? Every time I cut, it comes unthreaded. So, am I just not going to cut? What is the deal here? Something might be stuck in there. I don't know. Let me just get through these seams, and I'm going to do the most basic thing, and that's change needles. Because this wasn't happening yesterday, so. But we all share the same store machine, so. Yeah, it's cutting pretty short. There we go. All right, so now that we have that, we're going to bring our bottom raw edges together. Make sure I have this all the way up. There we go. It's wild. I can move. The only way to read the comments is for me to move the whole page. All right. Okay. There we go. So this is, and I'm going to squeeze and fold. Be mindful of your corner right here. So we want to clip on there first because you want your corner pointed. So that's the most important part. Even if we have a little bit extra in other places, we want to end up when we come off right at that corner. So I'm gonna do those corners first. What can happen when you do this kind of a seam too is you really have to kind of press and push this end forward because it's not like a natural formation of a seam that you would do. So it wants to kind of pull back, and when you pull back was when you're going to end up with bubbles. In other words, the piece doesn't fit in correctly. So I always start at the corners because again, in this project, you want to make sure that your corners are pointy. So all right. Let me pull that out. I do not want it to come unthreaded at this point. And I'm going back to a center needle position because this is my seam, which is 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to actually drop my needle at the corner because I can see it now. Let's go back. All right. And then I'm just going to make sure that all of this is laying flat. If I have to, kind of ease some of that in, I want it really flat. I want a flat bottom or, a really sharp bend to that side wall. And then I want to make sure I end up in the corner over here too. one. Pull this a little bit, and I'll just snip. Oh, I'm still struggling with where the thread cutter is on the Avenir. It's kind of tucked underneath there, which is fine. I just keep forgetting that it's not the luminaire with it sticking out. All right, so I've got this one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push. Bend that open. And then I'm going to make sure that I arrange my corner first. Same over on this side. And then I want to make sure that this is even up here. So if I have to push this a little bit to make it even, I will do that. All right. Again, I can see my corner right here. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to drop my needle right in that corner. And that's where I'm going to start. All right. When I get done, I can see kind of where I'm at. And your corners should be nice and pointy because that's what we tried to do. We tried to get them right there in the corner so we had nice sharp corners. All right, so with a little bit of a press, I should have a nice box. All right, so now I'm going to repair the lining. And on the wrong side of the basket lining fabric, I'm going to mark the lines. It's a little bit different on this one, but we still have to cut out a section. So we want to be mindful about the direction of the box because we have 10 inches. Oh, I guess this one's 10 by 10. So usually it was a irregular. I guess the other sizes sometimes have the irregular size, but 10 by 10. So on one end is going to have 3 1/4 inches across. On the other side is going to have 2 1/4 inches across. And it doesn't look like I'm marking those. I don't think I actually had to stitch these, but I did anyway on the other one as well. And part of that is the thread kind of gives it a little bit of stand up-ish over here. And it certainly doesn't take away from it. All right, I'm just going to go draw the lines on that other piece on the wrong side. And I'll take this guy with me so that I can press him open. All right, so here's my 10 by 10 piece. And let's turn my iron on so that I can warm it up. So on one side, I'm going to do 3 1/4 is my line. And then on the other side here, I'm going to have them be 2 1/4. So what happens is our lining is much bigger than the outside. And so that creates the roll that goes over the outside and becomes like your faux binding. All right. This one we don't stitch, we just trim. So on the long edge, you're going to trim only the center sections on each side, cut on the lines to remove the rectangles on each of the basket linings. So remember, make sure that you're on the 2 1/4 inch side. Yeah. Okay, when I get back to the machine, I'm going to sew the side seams with again a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then sew the bottom raw edges together with a 1/4 inch, just like I did with the other one. So let's get this clipped, and this is going to be 1/2 the seam. And then when I sew them together to make the boxed corner, then that one's going to be 1/4 inch, just like on the previous piece. All right, set that aside for a minute. Let me go ahead and press this. If you have never used a clapper or a pressing block, you're in for a real treat when it comes to this kind of stuff. So what the purpose of the block is that when you press something, obviously it's heated and it goes, down to your mat, but this takes the seam and makes it totally completely flat because the wood pulls the heat towards it. So it's really, really good for getting stuff like this to behave. All right. So I'm going to start by just pressing that open. I can do that on this one because this foam does not have a fusible side. Once I got it all warmed up, I'm going to just take my block and press. I love this size. This is I have pressing blocks or clappers in probably 6 different sizes because they're also good for if you have an embroidery machine and you have to press things in the hoop. Sometimes when you're doing an in the hoop bag, the best press to get that really pointed corner when you trim it and take it out of your hoop is going to be while it's still in the hoop. And it would be nice to come out with something like that, and you can just right in the hoop because it's small. It fits into a 5x7 hoop, not a 4x4, but there's a smaller one you can get. They're all sizes. And then if you're doing a lot of stitching on, on strips, then there's I think it's a Riley Blake makes a really long one. All right. And then I'm also, now that this is pressed out and this is flat, I'm also going to press in here, but only between the corners. All right, so there's the difference. Here's one side that's been pressed and one that has not. So you can see that the pressing certainly does help. And then again, if you were using a heavier stabilizer when you established this press, it would be a little bit more structured. But what I found, again, I didn't redo my video because I made mistakes when I did the first video, and I didn't really do mistakes. I just didn't make the best choice. All right. I don't redo those because I don't want you to think that I don't make the same mistakes that you do. But one of the things was I was trying to get it to, you know, stand up tighter by itself, and the end result was I just did a row of stitching at the very edge of each of these seams, and it popped it into a straight box right away. So that was the solution for this. So if you're just beginning your journey into the sewing, crafting, creating, embroidery world, welcome. I'm glad you're here because it's a lot of fun. For those of us that have been around for a while, you know, we tend to kind of circumvent or, you know, cut corners maybe. Not really cutting corners, but we have our little bag of tricks.
Hey, Michelle.
Yes.
Just
Nula, yes.
She says the camera is too close and they can't see. Is that what?
Does that look too close?
And she can't see at the machine. So which one are you using?
I'm at the ironing board. Is it not? So she shouldn't be seeing the machine. But look at what they hear. I don't know what she's seeing, but this is what they're seeing.
Okay, so she's saying at the machine though before that.
Okay,
that
all
was
right.
the part she was having a hard time seeing. So there.
Okay, I can
move
come
that
out
one
a little
back.
bit.
Okay, yeah, just a titch.
Let's see.
Okay, so she just moved the camera on the machine back a little bit.
Well, is that better? Well, she can't see it right now because I'm on the other page.
Right, you are. So
yeah, so she's gonna need to wait just
she'll
a minute.
anything. Yeah. So Michelle moved it back. So because all you could see was what, her hands. Is that what you said?
All right. When I get
she was off the yeah. Okay, well you fixed it. So
I fixed it.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right.
Just tell her to call back if it doesn't work when she sees it. All right, sorry about that, you guys. It's, you know, it's a juggling act because to move the camera back, I have to move my body back, which means when I'm sewing with my arms like straight out in the air on the sewing machine because the camera's there. All right, so here's this one. Let's get this other one over and hopefully the new camera position will work well. All right, so here's the new camera position. And here's my hands. So is that a yay? Is that better for everyone? All right. All right, that should work, I would think. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go back and do my 1/2-inch seam allowance. So Nula, I hope you can see now. If you can't see, either say something on the chat because I'm looking right now, or call Lori back. Let me check the chat. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press this seam open, and then I'll come back. No, maybe I can just finger press it. Probably can just finger press it. All right, so again, I'm folding, and I want to keep my corners mindful. And I will start at the corner. And then make sure that it's all lined up. And again, I'm gonna put my needle down right in my corner. I'm not gonna let it get away from me. Let's put it that way. I'll pull out a little bit. So I'm gonna start needle down and just back up to my needle. Wait a second. And again, I just use my 5.5 left-right shift needle position, and I'm using the edge of my foot as a guide. So give it a turn, make sure you have good corners. Mine look good. Okay. Ooh, I hear things crashing on the floor out there. I'm going to go take this over to the table and press, and then I think it's about time to tuck our little bag in there and sew around. So I'm going to switch to the table view. Yeah, it's a little bit more table view there. It is also heat erasable because all my blue ink is, it was harder to see on the outside. You can erase it with both the eraser on the back here, but it also is heat erasable. All right. That's looking pretty good. All right. Perfect. Let's see what my next move is. All right, so with the right sides together, insert the basket body into the basket lining. So here's my basket lining is still inside out, and my basket body is right side out. So they have to be right sides together. And then we're going to stitch we're going to make it, this is going to be baggy. All right. Because this is actually going to fold over and be your binding. So the right side, the inside of the basket goes on the inside. Match the side seams, but know that this is going to be longer. You're also going to leave a hole in the side for you to turn it. I'm trying to see where in the picture it leaves the hole. Turn the basket right side out, or I guess, okay, pushing it through the opening in the bottom of the lining. Okay, so I didn't leave an opening in the bottom of the lining. I sewed it together, so I'm going to leave the opening at the top, which is easier to actually put steam-a-seam in, to be honest. I look at not where they told me to put the hole, but where it's easier to turn. So if I leave a hole here, it's harder for me to fix that hole, and it's not a very big hole, right? It's hardly a hole at all. So I'm going to leave a little hole here, and I'll turn it through that. Or maybe I won't. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I did. I don't think I normally don't leave the holes in the bottom because it's hard to get to. But maybe I will. Let me pick some out. Boy, me and the picker have had a good job. I've had a good relationship today. Okay, so right sides together. Sew the sides together with 1/2 inch seam. Bottom raw edges together side. Leaving a 1.5 to 2 inch opening in the center of one of the sides for turning. Okay, and this is why I usually don't do it. This is a big thing. It's got foam in it. It's not going to fit through 1.5 or 2 inches. So I guess I'm going to leave the opening at the bottom bigger than that. And let me add a few stitches so it doesn't pull all the way across. Or I think I'm going to be okay. This has back stitching here. This has back stitching here. Let's see which one has more back stitching. I think I'm going to do this one. But I'm definitely going to do more than 1.5 or 2 inches. Because it's going to be miserable to try to trim that. Plus, if you decide to do a bigger box or something the next time around, this is why I like binding. It's a tall order to get all that through 1.5 to 2 inches. And I'm also going to put my steam-a-seam on now. And that's because I don't want to fight with it later. And because I can press and I can press the seam so I know how to match it back together. I had a teacher along the way. I came from the garment side. I had the privilege of taking a week-long course with honestly probably one of the best couture seamstresses I've ever met that used to do wedding and all kinds of other stuff, just high-end couture, Chanel type jackets. I mean, amazing, amazing work. And I'm the girl that always says, I don't do anything by hand because I hate doing stitching. I hate stitching by hand. And I hated it then. But I just felt like it was a course I wanted to take. So I flew to Maryland and stayed there for a week. And, one of the things that she told us right off the get-go is not everything you sew will be couture. Some of it will be costume, as in just not something that's meant to be a family heirloom that you pass down. I can see the handwork when you do it in a quilt that you're going to pass from generation to generation. Everything doesn't have to be that level. So if I don't have to, I don't hand stitch anything. So, but I do like it to have a nice clean finish. So I'm going to press this a little bit. So I snipped into my corner, but not to my stitching. And I'm going to go ahead and apply my steam-a-seam here when it's flat and it's easy for me to press it on there. And I'm going to leave the paper on for now. It's going to get all crinkly by itself, and that's fine. But for now, I'm just going to leave it on. So that way I know exactly where to press it closed. our steam seam decided it wanted to unroll from the inside of the roll. So I don't know what happened to it, but it just wants to come off this way. So it's been kind of fun to play with it. All right, make sure I have steam seam stuck to all of it. Path of least resistance, I guess. What is this? Is in the side. Definitely 2 inches is not going to be big enough to squash all of this through. All right. Okay. Back on track now. Got a hole in the bottom there that's much bigger than 2 inches. And we'll get this show on the road. So at the end of doing 2 of them, I still decided that for me, I do love the look of binding, and I love doing binding. I think it's marvelous. But if you don't like doing binding, then you're going to love this method because you don't have to bind it. It's going to make its own binding. Watch your corners. You want to match up your corners. You want to make sure it's not on there crooked. If your machine has a free arm, right now is probably a good time to take your tray off. Your accessory tray will make it easier to stitch. I am going to stitch from the top, which means that my pin should be going in the other direction here. I have the embroidery unit on, so don't have that free space. Make sure that those corners line up. Otherwise, when you turn it, your corner for your inside will not be at the same place as the corner from your outside. So make sure that they're lining up. It'll still work, but it'll have kind of a floppier look. Good. All right. All right, so now we're going to sew all the way around, and let's see what our seam allowance should be. My guess is it's a 1/2 inch, but maybe it's not. Oh, no. We're going to sew all around the top edge with a 1/4 inch seam. If your machine has the option, remove the slide-on table. I think I just told you that. Turn the basket right side out, pushing it through the opening in the bottom, and smooth the basket. Okay, I love this part. Let's do this part, and then let's do the other basket where you're just going to sew the 2 pieces together and put binding on the top. Okay, I'm moving over to the sewing machine. Okay. All right, so I gotta sew this way because I don't want to take the embroidery unit off. So again, I'm starting in the middle. I never start at corners, and it's 1/4 inch. So this is a great time to have that handy that I can just use my J foot. I've got my left-right shift is set to 5.50 or 5.5. And my stitch length is 3. If you didn't come to the sewing, embroidery, quilting world from the garment world, I'll give you a little tip. When you have two fabrics that are two different weights, it's almost better to sew from this side with the foam on the top because your feed dogs will help ease in fabric on the bottom. This obviously is not going to ease. So if your lining is a little bit bigger, but I know it's not because you followed the directions and we did it together. But if it is, that your feed dog is going to work that extra fabric in as you go along. So stop periodically, let the foot come up, and then readjust. And it's going to work any excess in for you. I do want to make sure that my seams match and that they're both open. All right. So now that open spot is where you're going to turn that bag inside out. So squish your bag. You can get your fingers in the hole, squish. Kind of go in there and squish some more. And I can feel my steam paper peeling off. It's fine. I just like to leave it covered until almost the time I'm going to use it. So as you get more through, just push it through. All right. Okay, now that you've got this out, since the seam is already there, you can grab each corner, make sure all the paper's off of it. It's been pressed, give it a little pinch, and it'll line back up. So your choice. I have to go over to the table and press anyway, so I can press it there. Or if you want to just sew really close to the edge right now, you can do that as well to close it that way. And if you love to do handwork because it's just so relaxing to you, feel free. Go ahead and thread up a needle and hand stitch away. You can whip stitch that closed. So one of the things that I still have, the sample that I still have from that class, is she had us install an invisible zipper into black silk chiffon, hand stitched with little white beads every 1/4 of an inch. So not only did I sew the zipper in by hand, but as I was sewing the zipper in by hand, I was adding a bead. It was a beaded, so it was a cocktail dress kind of situation where it had the beading as part of the the zipper. So it was a really cool class. I mean, I'm really glad that I took it. But I can't say I use a lot of those skills, but I have fond memories of them. All right, I'm gonna jump over to the table and I'm gonna press this together, and then I'm gonna seat the lining inside and press, and then this makes our binding at the top because this piece is bigger, all right? And then once we go around and get that in place, the next thing I'm gonna do is pinch these corners together, and we're gonna stitch a line on all of the side seams, and that's going to make our bag kind of be more like upright. All right, I'm moving over to the table. All right, let's see here. That's looking pretty good. Let's see if I can make it look better. All right. So here's another one that we did previously. So you can see you can just do anything with them. I like this one has higher sides. So you could do that with this bag as well. And it's great for clips and stuff. I think the smaller ones are really kind of fun to have around the sewing room. All your little trinkets in it. All right. So I want to try and establish the corner of the lining with the corner of the bag from the inside here. So I'm going to try to line those corners up together. And then the same, I'm just going to kind of go along the seam on the inside and again, just line those corners up together. All right. You want about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of that roll to the top here. If you get it too big, it's just going to be hollow because there's nothing there. So about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. And then we're going to stitch in the ditch. And then once we stitch in the ditch, then we'll grab our sides and put that little short seam in there. I have and these are feet. I don't know if you've ever noticed this on your feet before. Some of them have that little black button on the right side, on the left side of the foot. That is like a built-in hump jumper for thick seams, for going over like felled seams on pants, things like that. And there's several feet that might be the feet that you use most often that have that little black button on them. And although there is a stitch in the ditch foot that does not have it, mine does have it. So I'm going to show you how to actually use that. So see, this is the part I don't like. I followed the measurements precisely and I still have like some bagging in there. So when the pieces are equal, it doesn't happen that way. So my other basket, so on this bigger basket, I have a lot less extra slack. So I could roll it up and use it as binding, but the problem is when I roll it up to use it as binding, it's just hollow in here. There's nothing there. So I don't know, maybe instead of making it an inch bigger, I could shoot for making it like, if I'm going to do the basket this way, I could shoot for making it maybe 3/4 of an inch bigger instead of an inch all the way around, because it's just too much extra fabric, I think. All right. All right, so I'm going to take that over and I'm going to stitch in the ditch using my in the ditch foot. And then I'm going to pinch the sides here and sew a seam really, really close to the edge that's going to grab those corners in. So at that point, I'll push any excess fabric into that corner so that when I stitch that seam, it'll catch it. All right. All right, stitch in the ditch foot. So the other thing I love is project bags. If I have some fun fabric that's left over, I'm going to make a project bag out of it. That's just the first thing I go for. All right, where's my foot? Is it here? Honestly, I bought it last night and I put it in my project bag, so it must be here, right? Let me look at it. All right, I can't find it, so I'm going to go grab one off the wall really quick. Okay, I'm back. And I know it's, you know, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, but it seems like if I lose something and I can't find it in my sewing room, the easiest way to find it is to buy another one, right? Okay, so this is the little button that I'm talking about. It's also on your J foot, right? It allows you to accommodate thicker seams and go over them smoothly without getting skipped stitches. Now, if you look at this, you think, oh yeah, that's a 1/4 inch foot. It's not. It's got a blade down. There is a 1/4 inch foot with this, but there's a blade down the center for stitching in the ditch. So I'm just going to be using my center needle position. I'm turning my box inside out because remember, I don't have a free arm here. And then I'm going to slip this stitch in the ditch foot on. And I'm going to be sewing this way, right? So I'm going to take that off. And it just depends on how thick your fabric or your seam is. The foot is self-adjusting. So I can go ahead and say, okay, I want to, I'm going to find a place to land here. This is the part of the project that when I was doing it with the walking foot became the most difficult because the bag is so small, or the box is so small, it's hard to get the whole back of that foot in. So if I actually hold the button, I'm going to level the foot off, hold the button in, and then put the foot down. It's going to hold that until it doesn't need it anymore. So if there's a big bump somewhere, like I think what I'll do is use it as I get towards the seam. And I am gonna use a decorative stitch. I'm gonna use a little blanket stitch for my stitch in the ditch because I just feel like it makes binding pretty. If you want to just stitch straight in the ditch, just go right ahead. I'm going to use a little blanket stitch that I love for binding, and it just leaves a pretty. It's just pretty. So. Right. Okay. So again, I'm starting not in a corner or anything. And I have the blade is right smack where the ditch is. So I don't know if you guys are just not commenting. I'm not seeing anything on the chat. So, oh, wait a minute. Let's see this. If I do live chat, let's see. Oh, do I have any more? Nope. Oh, yep. I have a lot of people I have to say hi to here. Hi, Cindy West. Oh, good news. I see your message now. Oh, Karen, there are so many different brands of the clappers. I buy them by size. So I think Lori Holt has the ones that are just like the same size all the way, and she has long, medium, and short. The one by Gypsy Quilter is nice because it has a wider end and a flatter end, so it does fit in small spaces. But I think that everybody that does any kind of in the hoop project on their embroidery machine that is like a key fob or a bag or something special that that needs to be pressed as you go along in the hoop, because that's the best time you're going to get. That's the best press you're going to get. Once it's done and the zipper is in and the sides are stitched, some of those pieces you won't ever really be able to press again. So I think everybody should have one, which means usually I pick one that fits in a 5x7 hoop, so it's going to be a shorter one. And there's L'Oreal Holt has one that's about 5 inches long, I think, 5 or 6 inches long. And also this Gypsy Quilter that I'm using in class today, that one also fits in my 5x7 hoop. All right, so I'm almost there. All right, so I'm coming to a side seam over here, and it's thicker. So when I'm watching my foot. When the front part of my foot begins to pitch up, it means I'm approaching something that's thick. I'm going to stop. I'm going to hold the side button in and then start stitching. And the side button will stay in until it goes over that hump. And when it goes over that hump, the foot flattens out and the button pops out. So these, the stitch in the ditch, if I'm not using the multi-function, the wide one, the digital dual feed walking foot, if I'm not using that one, I like having a stitch in the ditch foot for this kind of a project, right? So I'm coming up on the end, and I'm just going to do a stitch in place. And so I've got that nice little blanket stitch on the edge there. All right, so now I'm going to fit the lining in there as good as I can. And then I'm going to press. so that it's together in there in the seam, because I want to go down those side seams right on the line of that becomes the corner. So I'm looking for the corner right here, and then I'm pressing the lining in there so that it creates excuse me, so that it'll take some of the slack out. And this came undone, so it must not have gotten enough heat. So let me just stitch it up really quick. Actually, I might just have to press it again because it's going to be hard to get it out far enough to do it. Yep, I'll get it later. Yep. All right, so again, I'm moving the corner of my lining into the corner of the exterior of the box and going all the way up the side with my finger and kind of pinching any excess in there. I mean, really, if I wanted to get uber crazy about it, I could go across the bottom too, but I don't. I mean, literally, I'll probably use this to put clips in. I have a couple of them in my guest bathroom that I use for things like Q-tips and stuff, just so that if somebody's visiting and they forgot them. All right. I'm going to go down the sides now. I'm not going to use the stitch in the ditch. I'm just going to go ahead and select the regular J-foot. Remember, sewing machines don't like to sew on air. So you're going to have to work in. It might even be easier to start from the back and work up. And let's go all the way. Let me get a straight stitch. Let's go all the way to the right with the needle. And I want to go right along the edge there. So I'm going to put my edge of my J-foot down. And I can see how the foot's pitching up? Let me get the needle in my fabric, because that's always a good place to start. No, it's not in. All right. See how my foot is pitching up right here? So to use that little knob, I'm going to make sure the foot's level, push the knob in, and then start stitching. See how the knob stays up? And the foot adjusts to extra layers, right? As long as that button is in, it's engaged. When I get to the end, I can do a little back stitching, cut my thread, and then the button pops back out. So now I have a little bit of a pinch seam over here on the side, so it's going to make it stand up a little straighter. If I quit dropping it. All right. Putting my needle down, holding the button in, putting the foot down. So that little knob works with your AHA system on your machine, which is your automatic height adjustment. Most all of the machines in the Brother Baby Lock line come with the J-foot with the button. And to an extent, it does work whether you have the AHA system or not. If your machine doesn't have AHA, and how do you find out? Well, it would be in your machine settings. If you don't see automatic height adjustment, you don't have it. But if you do, it works with that, and a little bit marginally, it works a little bit better. But it still works even if your machine doesn't have it, because it still works as like a hump jumper. And it really will help you not have skip stitches. All right. So our first little guy is done. I'm going to go press him. And he's nice, but he still has a little bit too much fabric in here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again. And this time I'm going to use binding at the top. Now, the other thing you could do, it depends on the size of the basket. If it's bigger, the box, it's bigger, it's a little bit easier to do, is you could, when you do the initial stitching all the way around where you make the quadrants where you're going to trim and stuff, if you don't mind putting binding on stuff, then you could actually quilt those two pieces together, and then you totally would have no slack anywhere, right? Because it's one piece. But with each of those seams, you would have to put binding on it, right? So, it's entirely up to you. Again, it's an option on a bigger basket. I certainly would utilize that option because it won't be as, I just like things to be a little bit tighter. All right. So I'm going to go back over to the table. And then we're going to get started on basket number 2, where I just do it my way. Sorry about the bounce here. My foot's tangled up in the cord. Okay. Just grabbing the clips. I know as soon as I pick up my stuff, I'm going to find my stitching a ditch foot. But sometimes it's not a bad idea to have more than one, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. I'm going to start out the same way. I'm going to spray baste. So here's what I have. Both my inside of the bag, inside of the box, and my outside are the same size. This has got the stabilizer on it, the SF101, so this is going to be the outside. This is going to be the lining. They're going to be exactly the same size. I'm going to do all of the steps exactly the same, except that I'm going to put binding on mine. And this is just straight binding. It doesn't have to be on a bias if you have no curves. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the first one. I'm going to spray a little stick on this. The little tents are nice for that to keep. And this one actually has some fusible on it, so I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to use both. I think it's got fusible on both sides. All right, since I think it feels like it has fusible underneath, I am going to grab my Goddess pressing sheet here and make sure that it's covering the mat so that I don't stick the foam to the mat. Because I use all the leftover foam because it's a great way. Again, it's a scrap buster, right? All right. Here's my inside lining. I'm just going to press it because I'm going to mark them both at the same time. All right. Markings. You can pretty much do what you want. So if you look at your directions, one side is going to be your sides, and the others that has the seam, and the other's the other straight edge. If you want, I'm sorry. The only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to make the inside 3 1/4 like a square, and the outside is going to be the same where it's, excuse me, where it says 2 1/2. It's just going to stay 2 1/2. Actually, no, they're both going to be the same. They're both going to be, what do I want to do it? I'm going to do 3 1/4 in a square. So they're both going to be the same. And again, I'm doing lining. I'm dropping it in. So you are the captain of this box. You don't have to follow their measurements. You can see that mine came out a little bit taller and a little bit bigger. And all I did is change the size a little bit. So if I wanted to make it just a little bit different, right? Not a whole lot. I could just add a 1/2 inch to each of the measurements. So if I just wanted it to still maintain the same shape, I could just add a 1/2 inch. So where I'm preparing the beginning, it says 2 1/2, 2 1/2, 2 1/2. I'm going to add a 1/2 inch and do 3, 3, and 3. My fabric is square, so that's already going to give me a square box. If I don't want a square box, then I can do, let's say this is 2 1/2. I can do this 3, and I can do the other side 3 3/4. I mean, it's just, it's irrelevant. It's going to make a box no matter what, as long as your measurements are sound. So it doesn't really matter. I am going to do, I do want it to be kind of oblong, so I'm going to go ahead and select 2, and so from 2 1/2, I'm going to change that to 3. So I'm going to adjust that a 1/2 inch. And then from, yeah. Okay. I think square box is up. So instead of 2 and 2 1/2, I'm going to do 2 3/4. It's 2 1/2. There's 2 3/4. No, maybe 3, because it doesn't look like I'm going to have much of a side. This is the argument I have with myself every time I do this. Nope, that's not 3. That's 3. It is 3. The other side looks much bigger. I'm just going to double check everything. That looks good. That looks good. All right, so this is going to be the area that I cut out. And I'm going to go ahead and trim around this, and then I'm going to mark this one at the same time. I'm just going to use a different color because I can do it all at the same time when I'm at the machine. This one's not got a lot of ink left in it. Let's try this one. Everybody must like the red one. Oh good, no one likes the black one. Ooh. Just thinking, and if I want to bind all the curves. No, I'll just do as I did on the other one. Okay. So this one can get this part cut out right on the line. Okay, let's go get some stitching done. And I'm going to go ahead and change colors of thread now. I'm going to change out from the pink to the blue. Have I ever made it with a handle on the each short end? Absolutely. You could absolutely do that. Again, it's your project. You get to do whatever you want. Just make the handles. You can do it either way. Either way, you can actually do a horizontal handle, so it's like a bucket, or you could do one that's the other way and sewn into the seam of the binding. Just depends on how big the box is, I guess. The world's your oyster on this one. Can do anything that you would like. So I have purple thread for this. Let's see. This is not a variegated one. This is just the cotton. So we'll see if this one breaks as well. Not breaks, but comes unthreaded. I never did change the needle. I could always try that if it starts happening again. All right. Again, I'm not going to sew around the outside edge until after I sew my lines. So we all have a ton of, unless you just started stitching yesterday, and if you did start stitching yesterday and you're here, I applaud you. That's good goals. That's some good goal setting. But we all have a bunch of scraps. So there's a ton of stuff we can do with them. We just don't sometimes think about it. Does this have to be a square box? It does not. What about at Easter time if you want to make something that's round? And then you could put a handle going across the top. You know, so, I mean, you have lots of choices. The black button is amazing, isn't it? Yes, keep your feet in the basket. If I kept my foot in a basket, I probably wouldn't have had to go look for another one, huh? But that's just, you know, the easiest way to find what you lost is buy another one. I'm telling you, it works every single time. All right, guess what? We're time savers, right? We like to do things and save time. I know I'm going to want that edge zigzagged, so I'm just going to do it now. I just want to make, because I still have to trim this off, so I want to make sure that my zigzag kind of hits right, maybe on the inside here. So if I put my foot down and I make sure that I can see the edge of my fabric from there, I've got it just on a regular zigzag stitch. I'm going to pick the width. Remember, I don't need it very wide. And then I want to see where the first swing is. And if the first swing is not off the edge, I'm good. If it is, because if it's off the edge, it means I'm going to cut it when I actually rotary blade this. If it's not off the edge, if it's off the edge, just use your left-right shift to move it. I mean, you can move your zigzag stitch too. It's any of your stitches. So now how I'm doing this is I'm looking in the window right here, and I'm making sure that I can see the edge of my fabric in that window. And my zigzag stitch is on the inside of my fabric, close enough to the edge that it's going to squash everything down, but far away enough from the edge that I know when I use the rotary blade to cut my excess foam off, it's not going to be in the way. As I get to the edge, my SF101 was bigger, so when I make that turn, I want to make sure I can still see where I was at. So I want to see the edge of my fabric in my window. Even though I'm going to cut that piece out, that's okay. It's still faster to do it now than later. I'm too close to the edge there, so I'm just going to move in. And then all of these I know will be zigzagged, so the foam will be flattened out a little bit. I won't have any fraying and nothing. My fabric's not going to shift at all. So 2 birds, 1 stone. It was having me baste it down anyway. And then I went back and I zigzagged some of it before I stitched it. And now I don't have to do that. It's 1 seam. So time saver. You can even start in the corner. It doesn't matter. All right, so now I need my 1/4 inch seam line that I'm going to follow for my cut. So I'm going to select my straight stitch and then use my left-right shift to move it to 5.50 so that I can use the edge of this foot. I'm going to see, I'll be able to see my seam by putting the edge of my foot right along that seam that I just did, that line of stitching. And here we go. I can maintain that 1/4 inch. Nope, 1 more. The edge that is right up against the edge of that foot. Oops. Still have my foot on the gas there for that one. Let's straighten that up a little.
Here.
Please. Oh yeah, thank you.
Well overdue.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if you're local and you've been into A1, you know it's a really busy store. We're really busy. We're really busy because we love our customers and we try to do everything that we can to make sure that they have a good time. And I just sewed the wrong side, I think. Yeah, it's this side. Well, maybe I just want to do it that way. No, I'll pull it out. That's what I get. It's a really, 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 really busy store, right? And our classroom is very, very, that we film from, like where I'm at today, is very, very, very tiny. I mean, to give you an idea, the camera, the tripod that holds the camera is usually in front of me, in front of the stool, because I can't fit a chair really back here. And then, the only bathroom we have for customers, if they come in, is the one back here, right? The handle is persnickety. I think the handle has a sense of humor. If it's us, or if there's nobody back here, it never happens. But every time I have a class going, or somebody has a class going, and a customer that's never been in before, the little handle stays up and means that the water runs constantly. So I have to stop class or hope that Lori hears it, because sometimes if Lori hears it, she brings it. She comes back. So we finally put a sign up. We thought, well, do we put a sign up? Do we not put a sign up? Do we put a sign up? I mean, it's like, I don't always want to see signs in everybody's bathroom, I guess. But I think this one, okay, one more. Oh, you're what? Can't have too many of any one thing. Redundancy is my motto. I like how you think, Karen. All right, so I've got this done. And I'm going to pick later, because I have stuff that I can stitch. I'm going to go ahead and do my 1/2 inch seam allowance here on this. And then I will pick that out. Although it could kind of be a decoration, I guess. Let's see. How's it gonna end? Yeah, it might not be bad, but I'll pick it up later. But I want to go ahead and get this going. You are welcome. I love tips and tricks. I think tips and tricks are like the best. Because, we all have our methods. We all have ways that work. And you know what? There is no one way to get from point A to point B. There's always multiple ways. We all know this. And so my tips may not be the same as your tips, but that doesn't mean that your tips are wrong or anybody's tips are wrong. It just means I haven't discovered how to do it that way yet, or you haven't shared that with me yet. I think that this is always, you know, a learning experience. So one thing I think I love about this industry is we always get such cool things as it changes, you know? I mean, there's always the constant. Change is always the constant. But it's just, I love everything that happens in this industry. It's just so unique. And even if it means that sometimes it slows me down because it's technology that I have to figure out. That's okay. I'll figure it out eventually. And just because you're frustrated with it today does not mean you'll be frustrated with it tomorrow. Tomorrow tomorrow it might just really settle in your head and you're like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? There's that one. Good thing I don't have to leave a hole in the lining because I'm going to just drop this in and bind the top. So no holes are required. So there's one left. That's one less step right there. Alright, so here's my lining. And then let me get my other piece here. And I'm going to go ahead and trim. You know what? I'm going to take it to the table because I'm going to go ahead and rotary cut the other part around the foam. All right, so my zigzag was interior just enough that I can trim right against the edges and still have zigzag on it. So one less seam that I have to do. Okay, now I can trim those inners here out. That's a little bit off here. There we go. All right, so these two are already zigzagged. I could go in here and do a zigzag because I know that once I get these done, I'm gonna, be joining it to the bottom. All right. All right, so on my measurements, I don't need a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm only going to do 1/4. It seemed like a kind of a waste, and it made it easier to follow. So for this one, I'm just doing 1/4 inch. All right, if you struggle to get this to press, down flat, the other thing I did is I clipped my corners, but not through the stitching, I just made a little slice in there. And so that way, first of all, you know exactly where the corners are, which was our important part number 1, right? And then you also know, you also have, it's easier to make it go flat. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side here, and then I'll press that open. I feel like sometimes we need to look at the steps and what are some steps that we can maybe skip or do in a different way. And if the outcome is different, okay, we just discovered something else, right? And if you've been sewing for a long time, now that it's all making sense. As a visual learner, I like the videos and or pictures. Yeah, I do. I actually like them. Oh, can't see the machine. Thank you. I forgot to change windows. All right, so you should see it now in a second. So all I did is do the same thing. I did 1/4 inch seam allowance. Come on, pop on. Thanks, Mary Jo. There it goes. So all I did is just my 1/4 inch seam here instead of a 1/2 inch. And then just so that it lays flatter, I'm going to clip into this corner here, but not through the stitching. Those are all things that'll make it lay flatter. Thanks, Mary Jo. Where are you now? I'm sewing the sides. I did my side seam. My side seam on this one is only 1/4 inch because everything else is 1/4 inch. So I left it, I didn't allow for that extra. So now I'm just going to go press these open, and then I'm going to sew across here like I did on the first one. Okay, give me a minute. I'm just going to press, so it's going to take 2 seconds. I'm not going to move the camera. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my little clapper to flatten it out. But it's just 1/4 inch. And I can still feel that there's glue on the side of this, so I'm going to just slip my goddess sheet in there just so I don't get glue on the iron. be right back there. I'm almost done. Just needed to give this a good press. All right. So there is my pressed seam. Yes, the kits do come with the foam, everything. All right. So now I've got these seams pressed open. And you know, it's amazing how much that clapper, I mean, a 1/4 inch seam is a hard seam to, you know, with the clapper to actually get it, without a clapper to actually get it to press flat. Even, you know, especially if there's foam. And I'll tell you one of my other tricks too, and I do this all the time with narrow seams in bag making. If you can't get that seam to stay down, put a piece of 1/8 inch double-sided tape behind it. Just make it stay. Just stick it down. It's not going to kill anything. And in some cases, you need to make sure that your seams are flat before top stitching them or something like that. And if it's not, you're not going to get good top stitching. So, you know, use a little 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape. That's my favorite size. When I order it, I order 2 rolls at a time because I know I'm going to misplace 1 roll. Are you guys getting this sequence here of what happens in my life all the time? I know I'm going to lose 1 roll in my sewing room, especially if I'm in the middle of a bunch of projects. It's just going to get lost. So I order 2 at a time. Let's get it to the... I'm glad I can see all your comments now, and I'm sorry I wasn't ignoring you. I just looked up and it was like, it wasn't showing me the comments in real time. All right, so there's that one. That side's looking pretty good. Hi, Benny. We have a little doggy visiting. Jana's little doggy. Benny's like the perfect doggy. He makes no noise. He's so easy to have around. Hi, Benny. Oh, he's just wagging his tail. He's just the sweetest little guy. All right. I'm doing the same thing. I'm watching for those corners because I want to have those nice shaped corners. If you're one of my quilters turned, I want to make other things besides quilty things, then I know you can match those corners because I've seen some of those things that you sew. So I know that you and corners are friends. All right, so this is my outside. I'm going to turn it right side out. I'm going to go press. I'm just going to press these seams on the inside open a little bit and kind of shape it up. And the same with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this inside. Right? Just going to drop it in and match it up, the sides and the and then I'm going to clip it to the top and sew the binding on at the same time. So just give me a minute to press this. I'm just going to press. So there's several different ways you can do binding. And none of them are wrong. So if you do yours a different way and it comes out great for you, don't worry about it. It's, you know, it's, you found your method. But I don't pre-press my binding. I kind of eyeball it when I turn it, and I just try to do a really accurate seam when I put it on. But that being said, you can have your binding. How much do you want to show? So if you want to see more like a 1/2 inch at the top up here of, you know, a binding, then so be it. You know, just make the binding a little bit wider. It's your project. You get to do what you like. Okay, just quickly pressing. And as I'm pressing those side seams, I'm also pressing the other side, you know, that's not got a seam on it, so that it's open as well. Press, 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 press. All right, and I've got my binding. I'm just gonna, I don't think it even needs a press, so I'm just gonna leave it as is. I'm bringing everything back over. Okay, let's see if I can get the camera angle better. All right, I'm going to drop the lining inside. Let's see what happened here. I'm not sure why it's so. Thank you. All right, so there's a lag on my end, so I'm not sure how it works on your end, but my end is lagging slowly. All right, so I'm gonna start by matching up my seams because that's like the most important. I've got 2 of those. And then I'm going to get my corners situated.
Okay. Okay, this is yarn here. This is closer to brown. Okay, so there's 2 now. There's 2.
All right.
2 fell because there's 2.
And I apologize for the camera swing. I just have really big hands and they don't fit in this space. I know we all love videos. I think that I never really knew what went into them before. It's a lot.
There's all that. That's what this is. Then I'm going to have another little one that's going to have organza. Yeah, and then I'll have organza, and then I'll have.
Okay, I want it to fit in the corners. All right, so I'm going to turn it inside out again. If you have a free arm, you do not have to turn this inside out. You can just do it along your free arm. But it also gives me a chance to look at the fit on my, so I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see this. It also gives me a chance to check the fit on my my lining. And if you look at this, I have a lot less slack in this one than I had in the first one. I mean, there's going to be some when I turn it inside out. There's no doubt about that. But there's a lot less. All right. So I'm going to start from the inside. And this is dependent on if you want to wrap to the back or sew it to the back and wrap to the front. It's your choice, all right? I'm going to use one of the side seams as my starting point. And this goes along with the same comment that teacher told me is it couture or is it costume? So I will not be doing a modern corner on this because it doesn't need it, right? It's costume. It's a fun little thing. So I'm just going to fold the edge of my binding down where it starts. And I'm going to clip it. I'm going to fold to the inside. So I'm going to just start by clipping that there. And then I'm going to just start stitching. And I'm going to do mine at 1/2 inch. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Whatever you choose. So I'm going to go ahead and do that at, okay. So I'm going to start right at that corner, right at that seam. And you have to kind of go slow with this because you're also watching the back to make sure that you're not losing your lining somewhere along the way. You have to make sure everything, it's just such a tight fit. But in a case like this, I normally would sew from the binding from the front and wrap it to the back because the front is my pretty side. I don't want to, if I stitch in the ditch and it's perfect on the back and I've got it not perfect on the front, then, I still want to have it be, nice when I'm done, even though it's just a little box. Because if it's worth your time, right, it's worth A, enjoying the process, and B, doing a good job, right? We're glad you found A1 too, Mary Jo. We try to make it fun. We try to make learning fun because it can be a challenge. Just as I go, I know it's slow. It's painfully slow right now. But as I go, I'm checking just to make sure that my lining didn't slide. Also, if you have your pivot on your machine where your needle stays down and your foot comes up, I would suggest turning it off for this because you're stopping so frequently to readjust that you don't want your foot to come up every single time because otherwise it gets stuck when you're turning. You're making some sharp turns there. And you don't want the foot to come up every time because it's actually holding your fabric in place, right? So I know it's odd, but I could probably sit and do binding all day and it wouldn't bother me. I know. I'm weird. Lori's laughing.
I know exactly what I'm going.
Lori's laughing because she's like, yeah, nobody likes binding. And I'm like, I do. Yeah, I do.
I don't like binding. But you have tricks that I like.
I have tricks because if it doesn't stick, I make it stick. So glue based it is my new best friend. And I have it in, again, I have 3 bottles of it because I am not losing this. But it's nice because it's temporary. All right. You can lay it. It has the thinnest nozzle I've ever seen. It's water soluble. So if your nozzle gets plugged up, like mine was, because I haven't used it, the one down here, for a while, you just put it in a cup of warm water, and it just opens up the nozzle. But it's the thinnest delivery of product that I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
And when you're clipping, like binding, when you're clipping it in place, once you get it clipped, you can just heat it with the iron, and it actually fuses, and it creates a temporary fuse. So it breaks down over time. And so it really has been, it was one of the newer products I discovered this year. Easier is either method of cutouts easier than the other. No, they're about the same. I just try to vary it, Karen, just because some people like it one way. Some are used to doing it a different
saying
way.
you're off camera.
I'm not off camera.
Okay, she says she's not.
I don't know what they're seeing.
Who is this?
Is that the camera that was a Nula?
Oh, is it?
They can't see what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay.
Okay, she'll
Let
fix
me
it.
try.
I had already called once. Yeah.
Main menu. Why is it? I don't know how to fix this.
Do you need help?
I do. Would you see if Jeannie's available? I don't know how to fix this one. I have no idea what happened because I can see it there, but it's definitely not in the right place. So I'm not sure what happened here, but the camera is really off. That was like 20 minutes ago, and I only have one camera here now.
Where's the other camera?
The one's by the machine.
Okay, so let's get you. Can you hop out of your seat for a second? Just stand up. Let's get this out from underneath. Ugh, and underneath the. Okay, so go ahead. Do you mind if can you pop up one more second? Okay, and
Okay, we're trying to
Okay,
fix it, ladies.
can you and then just there. Let's get that other cord out from underneath that too. Okay, there. Now we're gonna have the cords out from under you. And now let's see what's going on here.
They're plugged in. They were turned on.
So we're
Both of
just
them-
gonna go back.
we're just missing.
Let's go back to plus, and we'll just put the camera back and move the cameras. Disconnect. They're showing that they're
disconnected.
they're both connected.
Then why is only one
Continue.
there?
They're both here.
Okay,
Both cameras are there.
but they're not.
So which
So
one?
tell me what you're seeing, ladies.
So go ahead and put it back where, right now you're showing this part. So let's go back to where you have a view of what you're doing. Okay? And you have latency, so,
That's way latency though. That's like 20 minutes
let's
ago.
go ahead and we're going to refresh.
Okay, I'm refreshing. Okay, now
So
it
you're
looks
right
like.
there.
All right. So will somebody please type on the chat box and tell me what you are seeing? I lost my chat too.
I know. I don't know how to get that back. It's still thinking.
Okay.
But your camera seems fine. And you have both of them right here.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Just grab that from underneath it and this over here.
Yeah, it's the getting up and getting down. I keep getting wrapped up in everything.
And you're at 100% and 96%. So if you want
Okay,
to unplug that, you should
perfect.
be
Let's
fine.
let's get rid of that.
Go
That
ahead.
would be
And
great.
you can leave the other. But the record should be fine.
All right, so I can't see the. Okay, there is camera too far to the left.
We're gonna fix it.
Okay,
So it looks
can
good
you
now.
move it so we can see what you're doing? Okay.
Right here. You can see.
All right, I'm waiting for it to buffer because
I think you're ready to go.
well, it's not showing on the screen, so I can't see.
Yeah. They're just because this is all up to date. It just
All
has
right.
to catch up.
Okay. All right.
What you're doing right now is this is what they're gonna see in a minute.
In a minute. Okay.
Yes.
That's still not a great view for them, though.
So fix it. Right? You're good. Here. And then you can move this out of the way so you can see. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'll work. All right. I think you're going to see the right thing in just a minute, ladies. Hopefully, it's still buffering. I moved the camera all the way to the right now. So if you're seeing it to the left, it's not yours. It's not, it's still buffering. Yeah, I don't know. It's Jeannie, it's not updating. Yeah, it's not. I'm still seeing the picture that you left with. Okay. Okay. All right, so yeah, I can see it now. All right. Okay. So I'm almost to the end. And I'm just making sure I've got my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm just making sure that I'm catching both the front and the back. And I really like a 1/2 inch binding. That seems to be my sweet spot. So I often will use a 1/2 inch seam allowance for it. I'm coming to the end, so I'm just going to sew over by about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'll back stitch. All right, so I'm going to just fold this over and I'll cut that excess off. I'm sorry, ladies.
Just having a moment, right?
All right, so then I'm going to keep folding. Just going to fold it up. I think I'm just going to, let's see, add cameras. What is it? Okay, continue. Okay, there we go. All right, so you should be soon see the pressing station. And I'm going to wait for the camera to switch before I do anything. Come on. There's lag time. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay, great. Thanks, Cheryl. All right. Okay, in a second you should see the cutting table or pressing station. Yay! Okay. All right. I'm going to move over there then to the cutting table. Yes, that is good news. All right, so at the end here, this is always, I think, a problematic piece. Look at how good that is. It actually matched the print. But when you go to fold it, it's always like one's longer than the other. So since I'm not going to sew it by hand, I'm going to go ahead and put some steam-a-seam there, and I'm going to glue those two, I'm going to press those two pieces together. So when I begin to fold, that it's going to stay the same length. That other piece that's not where I started is not going to be able to pop out. And hopefully the steam-a-seam will fuse this time, because I want this to be permanent. And then the rest of it, I'm going to get my glue based. All right. So I'm just, there's my starting point. That's where I started the fold. I'm going to go right up against the edge with the steam-a-seam. I got that exactly the size I needed. That will never happen again. All right. I'm going to just match it up. It's so tiny that it's hard. It's a close quarter to work with it. I think the steam seam is dead. I think it's not sticking. So maybe it's unrolling funny because it's like, I don't remember how to unroll. All right. Okay, so then I'm mainly just finger pressing this. And then I'm just going to begin to roll it to the inside. So, and I'm going to clip first before I even start with the glue base. So I'm just rolling it and then rolling it to the back. So I do want to make sure that when I roll to the back, that it's, you know, somewhat even. But you know what? It actually kind of wants to go there anyway. So, you know, it's not usually a tough, you know, if I don't press it, it's not a disaster. So I'm just kind of folding it to the inside and then wrapping it around. And then, you know, make sure that where you stitched it together isn't part poking out. Right, where it's seamed together, I'm going to do that first and clip. So in all honesty, you probably wouldn't have to glue base this if you want to leave all the clips there. But again, it's such a tiny area that the more stuff you can get out of the way when you stitch, the better off you'll be. You know, it's especially if you're sewing with your embroidery unit yarn like I am, or if I'm sewing at home, my machine doesn't. My PQ machine does not have a free arm. I have a little lift I can put on it. But you know, once you're in the zone and you're sewing, it's like, wow, where did I put that? Where did I leave it? I may not want to get up to get it. So all right, so this is all folded. Let's flip it inside out, see how I did on the inside. All right, already look at how much tighter my lining is. It's not nearly as poofy as the other one. It's not as much left over. There's always going to be, unless it's quilted together, there's always going to be a little bit of space in there. All right, so where's my glue base? All right, so this is that little miracle stuff. It's called Roxanne's Glue Based It. So if I open this up and I stick a little glue based, ooh, I picked the wrong place to do it. This is just the steam seam is just flat not working. Let's just glue baste it then. And I'm just going to give it a little bit. There we go. Nope. I cleaned it out this morning, but there's something stuck in there, I guess. So, I think I'll just do this. I'll put some on here. And then I'll just use the stem. All right, so I'm gonna unpin that so that the steam seam didn't work. Let me put it back down again, and this time we'll try the glue based. And that sticks. All right, so now I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to just take my The nozzle is amazing. It really is. I soaked it this morning, but I don't remember the last time I used it here. It comes with a couple of extra nozzles on it. All right. So when I'm done, I can actually take the clips off, which is kind of nice. All right, get this out of the way. I'm going to go soak that again and see if I can find something skinny to stick. But look at the size of the nozzle. I mean, it's amazing. And it's, you know, it's such a fine line of distribution. All right, so let's start here. And so it's actually basted. I've just got the medium heat on the iron on this. Just pressed flat, and it's a temporary bond. I'm telling you, this stuff is like magic. It's not crusty. It doesn't leave any residue behind. And sometimes when you're in tight spots like this, the greatest thing in the world is to not have to put clips on it, right? You don't have to watch anything. You can just kind of stitch. Did I miss there? I didn't put any there. That's why it's not sticking. All right, we're going to finish this basket up, or box, or whatever you call it. I'm going to use the same little top stitching that I liked. I love my little blanket stitch. It's what I always do. But there's lots of decorative stitches that are really pretty to do binding with. There was one that we used in one class that was a decorative stitch from the decorative side of the machine, and it was just beautiful. All right, I'm heading over to the sewing machine. Let's see if I can do this right this time. At least we know you'll be able to see the conclusion, right? How big is the strip of binding? So Mary Jo, the strip of binding is 2 1/8 of an inch. But again, can you use a fabric glue stick? I don't know. I've tried them before. I don't know. Can you iron them on them? And do that? I mean, I guess you probably could. Those Wonder Clips are the best, right? I have glitter ones at home. They're the best. All right. I'm just going to set my stitch, which is a little blanket stitch. It's actually stitch. It's a stitch that's on the machine, and it's on if you're on a Brother Baby Lock machine, and it is under, it is under utility stitch number 1 category, and it's all the way down, almost to the bottom, and so the number is going to be different on the machines, but right next to it, it's a Q, and it's a blanket stitch that, for this purpose, is going in the wrong direction. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror image it. And then this is the one stitch that I have saved in every one of my machines. On the width, so the width is the width of the bite. The default is 1.5. I make the width 2. The length is 1.8. I make it 2. So it's a 2-2. And I just, I sew it with that all the time. So I have that one saved. It just comes up when I touch the button. All right. I'm going to get my stitch in the ditch foot. I still haven't found the other one, but I bet when I clean up, I'll find it. I'm still lagging behind here. All right. Got my stitch in the ditch. Now, the one thing about using the stitch in the ditch foot too is you got to know where, with using this blanket stitch, if I'm using a straight stitch, that straight stitch is going to be right directly behind that blade. All right, no question. I'm using this little blanket stitch, and if I look on my screen, I can see that this blanket stitch is to the left. In other words, the needle's over here and not in the center. So I can use my left-right shift to move it so that it's in the center. And it's usually 1.0 puts my needle right in the center. All right. Again, this is why I wrap from the front on this project, because if my binding is a little bit deeper in the back, again, this isn't an heirloom project. I didn't measure, I didn't spend a lot of time, folding it. It looks great from the front. I just want it to catch on the back. So I want to make sure that on the public side or the outside, the pretty side, that my stitches are straight. So that's why I chose this time to wrap from the front and wrap over. Now, sometimes you'll have binding in projects where you fold the binding, especially in the Biennies. She's almost famous for this. Any Biennies bag or something, this is like one of her signature things, is you are actually cutting the binding and then you're folding the binding wrong sides together. You're sewing it on and you're folding it over, all right? So in that case, I would be sewing it on from the back and wrapping it to the front because I still want the front side to be the perfect side. And I still don't have my, I still do not have my pivot on. So my foot is staying down as I stop because I'm stopping a lot. Corners, right? All right, here's where I'm getting to that lump. So I can see the toes of my foot are pushing up. So I'm going to lift the foot, press it flat, push the button in, put the foot back down, and then start stitching as it goes over that lump. And then when it's done, the button pops back out on its own. Built-in hump jumper. Don't have to do anything. It's right there on your foot. I just want to check the chat really quickly. Yep, looking good. Is it live time? Let's see. Yes. Top chat. How about live chat? Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
This is part of something.
For those of you that are still watching, I want to ask a question here because I'm now sitting in front of the machine with the camera all the way over to the right. If you are seeing this, then that's probably going to be my camera position for the future. If you can see this better, it's actually better even for me because I can sit on the left side of the camera and be in front of the machine where I can see where I'm stitching. We all have to figure out how it works for us. Okay, stitch in place and cut. All right. Poke those corners out, those beautiful, beautiful corners you did. All right, so already I've got better shape to this one. But I'm going to do the same thing because the lining is not attached like by quilted or something. It's going to move around. So I'm going to make sure it doesn't move around. I'm going to grab those corners and I am going to stitch up the side like I did on the first basket. And that's what turned out to be the best way to keep the basket standing up and not flopping over. Who wants a floppy basket, right? So I'm just pushing into the corners, fitting the corner of the lining into the corner of the front. And it takes in a lot of that slack. But I think what I'm going to try is I'm going to try the same basket, but I'm going to go ahead and quilt. I'm going to stitch the lining to the front at the same time. So my seams will be covered with binding even on the inside. On a small bag, that might be a disaster. But you know, to do binding on bags and stuff doesn't always have to be cotton fabric, ladies. I mean, I have some really tiny, tiny bags that I've done using scraps where my binding is fold over elastic. And it fits perfectly. And if you have to go around a curve, it stretches. And it responds to the glue based it wonderfully. All right. All right, so there's that first side, nice and tight. Get that excess off here. A floppy bunny. A floppy bunny. I love it. Good camera fish. Okay, good. Thank you, ladies. Great view. All right, thanks for the help. And these baskets are really cute. I mean, there's so many things I could think of. Although lately, I've been, because I do love project bags. I mean, it's because I always have a project, right? And it's good to have everything in the project bag. But I've been having fun with a tube turner thing that we got in the store, and jelly rolls, which is kind of remarkable because I'm not a quilter. I don't have a lot of jelly rolls. So part of my jelly rolls probably weren't really even, it wasn't even really a jelly roll. It's just that I had a lot of strips left over. I had a lot of fabric left over from my Minky Kim projects. I had a lot of Minky Kim projects. And so I did a purse out of it and fell in love with playing with those. But now this is what I want to try. I know that rope bowls are really kind of popular, but what if you did the rolls like you do with the jelly rolls? What if you did those rolls with batting? You know, you put the batting in, you put the rolls, and then it's a jelly roll rug thing. You wrap them and then you sew the strips together, okay? So what if you just made the strips one continuous strip, you know, kind of like when you wrap the rope. What if you just wrap the batting instead of the rope and made bowls or baskets and stuff out of that? I think it's appealing to me. It's piquing my curiosity in that area. I'll let you know how it turns out. Also, if you do have a Facebook page, you can always follow us on our A1’s sew-along page. That's there's a lot of Kimberbell stuff in there for the sew-alongs that Jeannie does. But I post stuff that I make in there too that isn't Kimberbell. So yeah, all right, this one's done. Look at that, so cute. Much better fit for the lining. But I still think that I'd like to try it where I actually sew it together and use it as one. Because that way you could, you know, like quilt stuff before, you could use pretty quilting patterns in your embroidery machines if you have them. Or if you have that free motion juju that I envy, and you can just do it your own, you have your own mojo to move it. I'm envious of you because I definitely don't have that. If you have that, amazing. Let's see what that'd be a great way to sew layers together. And I think that even though you maybe don't even worry about binding. Maybe it's so small, just zigzag around your seams on the inside and see if you like it better. I think that the shape of the box would be a little bit better because it would fit a little bit better. All right. I hope you had a great time in spite of all of my camera issues. I'm so sorry. I'm just learning the whole thing. We've been recording videos for a while, but if you know, this is only my third live video that I've ever done. I usually just do the recorded ones, or I do the Zoom meetings, which is a different platform. But this is only my third YouTube live, so I'll get it, I promise. On the last step, did you sew 3? Okay. On the last step, did you sew to the 3? I don't know what the last 3 words. The beading, the osteopath, the beading. Judy, help me. I don't know what the last words of your sentence were. Did I sew the 3? I did sew all 3 at one time. If you're asking me if I sewed the front of the bag, the lining of the bag, and the binding at one time, I did. I think that's what that might be. And yes, I did do it all at one time. All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining me. I love that you chat too, so thank you for chatting because I can see where your thought is, and thank you for all your camera help. So I'm going to go ahead and end our live.